guys, welcome back once again. Today I have kind of like a basic special effects tutorial in store for you. I'm going to be showing you how I make bald caps. Now I do own one of these lovely red heads. I do believe it's by Krylon, but don't hold me to that. Now I do understand that not all beginners are going to have one of these. I do highly recommend if you are wanting to make a lot of bald caps to get your hands on one of these, as it is the best and easiest way to do so, unless you do just buy them and then you don't need to worry about this tutorial. However, if you like me and prefer to make your own, as they can be ridiculously expensive, especially for people starting out, this was the best option. For this you're also going to need a bowl. That's just to put the latex in so you're not pouring it straight onto the actual head or onto the table or wherever you're doing this. You'll also want some latex. I'm nearly out, so hopefully we've got enough in this bottle. And then lastly but not least, you do want some little sponges. I would recommend little triangle sponges compared to this, as this is going to be a little bit harder to work with, but I seem to have lost all of my triangle sponges. I don't know. But some disposable sponges, I do not recommend something that you want to use again. Do not use a beauty blender if you want to use it again, because it's never going to work. You could nearly use a brush. I just prefer to dab it so you do not get the streaks or anything like that. You are going to have to do several layers regardless of what you do, and the brush in between layers can dry and you never get latex out of a brush. So whatever you use, just make sure it's disposable, as you will not be able to use it after you finish. Now the size of the actual like bald cap that you are wanting to do will vary from head to head. I know I have a massive head. I know that I'm going to have to take it down really far on this actual head to fully cover like my head from front to back. If you haven't done this before, if you really wanted to make sure that you're getting the right kind of shape of your head, but always kind of take the circumference measurement of your head, and also from like where you take the bald cap to, so maybe about here, to the nape of your neck, just so you have a rough idea of how wide like you're going to need it to be. Especially if you've got it on this head here, you'll want to know how far over here you go to how far down here that you'll have to go. Now if you are wanting to do this a lot faster, you can always get a hairdryer to try and speed up the process. I'd recommend, especially if you're doing it on this plastic head, to use a cool setting if slightly warm, not hot, as I'd hate for you to melt anything that you're doing it on. But enough chit chat, I'm gonna get straight into it. I'm gonna take you down so you can see what I'm doing. Now I'm not sure how many layers I'm gonna want to do for this. I'd say possibly 5, if not a couple more, as latex usually does do quite thin layers to begin with. And of course you want to make sure that there's no little bubbles. Because latex doesn't necessarily like to stick to like plastic things, it can bead up a little bit. So you want to do a fair few layers just to make sure that it really does settle in and gets a nice even coat. But I'm gonna stop talking because I could ramble for about half an hour, and I'm just gonna get cracking. I'd also recommend with starting with a small amount of latex, just because once you do one layer you have to wait for it to fully set before you can do another. So you do not want to have too much latex sitting out and about drying, because you're just going to end up with a lot of wasted latex.
So you really want to take your time with the first layer of latex, as it will be the real structural base to it all. So don't rush, and make sure you've got all areas covered before you start to dry. And just try and make it as even as possible so it doesn't take too long to dry certain spots.
So I was impatient, which I know I shouldn't have been, and I knew as soon as I went to do it that I was doing the wrong thing. But up here there was some really big bits of latex that I hadn't spread out well enough. I went to dab them and spread them out, and it's now created lines because the top layer of the latex had set but the stuff underneath had not. So I'd highly recommend just being patient and not do what I did. I mean, it's not going to make any major difference to the bald cap, other than it's not going to be as smooth as you probably would have liked. You will do enough layers over the top of this that it's not going to be too thin, so I wouldn't worry too much. It's just not going to look as pretty. I'd also highly recommend not using a hairdryer when there's a bowl of flour beside it. I'm an idiot and I've now got little bits of flour all over my makeup room.
So I did somehow manage to lose 2 lots of footage here. I did do 5 layers in total, however you will only see me do 3. Once you have done the 3 base layers, I'd recommend the 4th layer you do about 1 inch up from the edge, and then the 5th layer another inch on top of that, just so you end up with a thinner edge than the rest of your cap. And also, don't be silly like me and put the front of your bald cap in a bit of blue tack and then go to peel it up, because you will end up damaging the front of your bald cap, and that's really not ideal.
Oh no. Uh-oh.
Once you have completed your last layer of the bald cap, it is time to powder the outside of it. You want to make sure that it is completely dry before you start this, and I just use the RCMA No Color Translucent Powder just to really go over the edge. I like the fineness of it. You want to make sure the entire outside of the bald cap is covered in this, otherwise it will stick to itself when peeling it off. So please take your time with it. I'm just trimming up the edge that got stuck to the blue tack, just to try and get rid of the lumpy little bits that fold in on themselves. Now this last step is probably the most important out of them all. It is trying to get it off the head. Now you really want to take your time with this and go really slow, as if you start to rush it, you run the risk of it sticking to itself and then it's just taken all your hard work of trying to get a thin edge and ruined it completely. So really take your time with this. I'm just using a small brush and a lot of powder and just working my way around the entire edge of the bald cap before trying to peel it back. Because this is sped up, you really can't tell how long this has taken me. However, it did take between like 10 to 15 minutes to just slowly work away around the edge, and the last bit of actually taking the complete bald cap off is a much speedier process, so you really just want to take your time with the edge before really rushing in to getting the rest of the bald cap off. Don't forget to try your hardest to not get impatient with this process, as it is a pretty vital process, as you can completely ruin your bald cap if you decide to just say screw it and pull the entire bald cap off, as latex likes to stick to latex. And if you rush it and pull it off and they get stuck together, there's really no hope in trying to get it unstuck. You can still use the bald cap, but there'll be creases in it and stuff like that.
So there we have it, guys. As well, if you then wear the bald cap inside out, you will have a lot smoother surface. My actual head has a seam that runs all the way down the top, and it has a couple of numbers on the front and the back. So if I did want to wear it inside out, I'd then have to try and deal with hiding the numbers. The seam isn't too bad. But as well, I'm using this in a character makeup. I'm not using it to actually make myself look bald. So I'm not quite as pedantic about trying to make it as smooth as possible and as seamless. But I definitely feel like the 5 layers were enough. I did 3 base layers and then 2 layers gradually that little bit back from the edge, just so you had a nice thinner edge than you do the middle. So there you go, guys. That is the bald cap. I probably could have brought it down the sides just a little bit more. It is struggling because my hair is in a high pony, it's kind of slipping back up. You can see there is the little bit that I had to cut out, so if I hadn't had to cut that out, it would have come to about here, which is a pretty good kind of starting point. You did want to then bring it back close to the hairline though, of course you could. But that is a pretty decent size. If you did want to have it a little bit more, I do look ridiculous, give yourself a little bit more leeway, I would then of course just bring it down that little bit further. Now I will put the exact time that it took me to make that with, that does include using the hairdryer to speed it up and whatnot. But I'd say probably maybe between 30 to 45 minutes. First couple of layers took that little bit longer because I was wanting to take it down that little bit further, and they may have taken, actually, I reckon probably closer to 45 minutes to an hour to make this, which that does seem ridiculous. However, if you do just do the layers and let them dry, you can then go and do other stuff. You don't have to sit here and dry it with a hairdryer. And I did use all of the bottle of that latex, so it was about that much I think left in the bottom. So 500 ml bottle, I think I had about that much left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So maybe about 100 mils of latex roughly. And these retail for $25 Australian. I do believe you can get latex a lot cheaper in America. However, it is not as readily available in Australia, so this costs $25, so it would cost $5 pretty much to make this bald cap. Bald caps aren't very cheap. They retail anywhere between like high teens to $30, depending on the quality of them. You do see some for like $8, but then you see the pictures that come with it, and it's not actually a bald cap as such. It's like a swimming cap that's skin colored that usually has like grandpa hair attached to it. I prefer Pros-Aide to actually adhere the bald cap. However, Spirit Gum does work quite well as well. I do see people use latex. I just don't like using latex as an adhesive. Plus, latex hurts like a lot to get off, especially around your hairline, as you may not actually be able to see all the baby hairs, but there's lots of baby hairs there, and it grabs onto every single one of those. So if you could avoid using latex to do it, highly recommend, although I do realize that latex is a lot more readily available than a lot of the other adhesives. Now I did have a little read up before, and I do know that styrofoam heads are a lot easier to get your hands on, and I read somewhere that if you cover them in PVA glue, like lots and lots of layers of PVA glue before trying to do the bald cap over the top, it should work. Now I haven't tried this, I'm just suggesting it as an actual way to go. So if you do test that out at home, please let me know down below. So obviously the $5 does not include the actual cost of the head. This, I can't remember what it retailed for, but it was reasonably pricey. It could have been around the $60 mark. However, if you are making a lot of bald caps yourself, it does end up being more cost effective in the long run. However, I did pick up a styrofoam head the other day just to keep wigs on and stuff for around $9. So if you can get one of those and put I think there's around 20 layers of PVA glue, which is a ridiculous amount of PVA glue, on one, you could probably get one for around $12. Let's just say that's the rough price of a PVA head PVA head, a styrofoam head covered in PVA glue. I'm gone. But thank you so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on that little notification bell so you do not miss out on any other tutorials I have coming for you. And if you recreate any of my looks, I'd love to see you all in some bald caps. My social medias are down below, so go tag on Instagram or Twitter or wherever you may be posting. Tag me in it, I'd love to see it. Thank you so much for watching. See you tomorrow. Bye!